Okay, hopefully we can get this one done today.
Okay, we need to have an agreement. This is it. There's no more. We're talking about bee wax next time. We're not talking about this.
Yeah, for sure. That's our next topic. Um, and it'd take us weeks to record that, maybe. Um, so, yeah, I mean, this has just been a struggle getting this done. But I think it's largely due to us just working out the kinks since we've not really been doing this for about a year. So, um, I think it's just us ironing out how we want to go through these topics. Um,
Plus, we're doing it as a new format a little bit.
right, yeah, we haven't quite done it this way, and it's new for me. Uh, I've not really been finding it natural to go through bullet points or an outline, really, because I don't know, just formulating it very clearly and succinctly is part of where I struggle. So hopefully,
Do you see? Do you see that I shorten sentences as much as I could?
yeah, they're very just straightforward. So
Hmm.
that will help us. So basically, the format for today, I think this we're agreed on this, is we're gonna go through the outline, the basic outline, which is like bullet points, kind of. And then we're gonna go into more detail after we get through it all. And
Yeah,
then,
and at any and when we do the more detail, you can go back to any point that we've covered or ones that we haven't. But
right,
we're
yeah, it's not
yeah,
like we're just gonna be done with these. The goal is we want to make sure that we get all the information that we want to state out there, and then maybe
hmm
we won't go into detail on every single point, but we at least communicated all the ideas that we wanted to. So
right.
it's kind of a mixture between our two styles. Oh, the one is the bullet points. The other one is going to be more discussion based. So hopefully then this will not be chaotic mess. It will actually be worth listening to. So thank you guys for joining us, and hopefully you guys do get something out of this, whatever it may be. And oftentimes, we've talked about this many times, oftentimes the point you make is not the point that people get out of it. So,
Yeah, which is very discouraging. No, it's encouraging.
yeah, I mean, it depends on what you got from it. Like, if you got from it that AI is the worst thing ever and it's going to destroy the world, then clearly something went wrong.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, if the whole gist of what you're discussing is that you should go right and the other person goes left because that's what they got out of it, then you'd go like, okay, maybe didn't have my arguments lined up as well.
yeah, I mean, or the other person did not understand what you were saying, not because of your
Right.
fault. But anyway, so yeah, that's the gist of what we're going to be doing. So,
Yeah.
are you ready to start with the outline?
Yeah, that sounds good. And basically today we're going to be talking about a lot of things, but our subject, our overarching subject is AI, but there's a lot of sub subjects within that. So we might as well start right off, and I'll just go a little bit, and then you'll go, and then I'll go, and then uh,
Yep.
and then at the end, like you said, we'll discuss stuff. So what we're going to go through is just an outline for our AI discussion, and so
Yeah. Let's
uh,
begin then.
okay, we are constantly bombarded with issues of extreme urgency, and they seem designed to keep people, including ourselves, in a state of fear or confusion. And it's important to remember that often issues of urgency are legitimate and relevant concerns. And it's our opinion that AI is definitely one of these. And so we will seek to properly understand AI.
So in order to properly understand AI, we must start with what is the human person? What are we fundamentally? And the truth is that we are rational and relational fundamentally. We have rational capacity, which is to observe reality, to know it, and to conform to it. We have a deep desire to know, as Aristotle says. All men by nature desire to know. We have relational capacity, speech and written language to connect with others. We have a desire to be known and to know others in that relational way.
So that's important to start there with what the human person is. And so now we'll go into AI. AI is fundamentally a tool. So then you have to ask, what is a tool? A tool is designed to accomplish a task effectively and efficiently. Instead of using your hand, you're going to use a hammer. Okay. Tools require an agent that are morally neutral. An agent exercises or should exercise intelligent control over whichever tool is being utilized. And by agent, we mean the person controlling the tool. I just said person, so
yeah,
the agent in this case is a person.
Yeah, exactly. A mind is what we mean by an agent. So, and then since we are rational and relational, AI is a natural fit for us, for our condition. Why? And the reason is because AI mimics the rationality and relationality of humans. And it is designed for information applications, creating databases, and analyzing collected data, and for accomplishing directed and automated tasks.
Now, because AI is so efficient and accurate, it will impact society. Innovations in the past and currently tend to create an increase in employment opportunities. With AI, however, the opposite is occurring, and it is expected to occur. Some of the things that will be affected is, the need for human labor will decrease. AI will promote consolidation and centralization of power and wealth for the few, the elite, for governments, etc. With the implementation of AI, it will diminish human interactions. However, this is not a new challenge. Purpose human action can moderate this challenge and this change, though not everyone will do this well. In sum, AI will affect every human endeavor.
Yeah, and the truth is that AI itself is not the main issue. Personal accountability is, as always. Unfortunately, we often seek to defer or avoid accountability by blaming others. That's so common, such as our parents, our teachers, our friends, or our leaders, etc. They do impact us, but ultimately, we are responsible for our own actions. Personal accountability doesn't mean a person needs to be an expert about AI. Rather, it does mean that every person is obligated to be aware, learn, and prepare themselves as best they can, as we should do in all areas of life. So, no amount of legislation can save someone from their personal negligence. It always comes back to the individual and their actions. Personal negligence does have a cascading effect on society and culture. Everything starts with the individual and the family, and then branches out into society. A person that is an agent is responsible for any tool used. A hammer can be used to build a house or harm a neighbor. Exactly. And AI is like a hammer. And so accountability begins with individual and families, then governments, teachers, and other human organizations bear secondary responsibility, but they are not as effective at promoting a thriving society as the individual and family. Absolutely. And as John Adams said, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people is wholly inadequate to the government of any other.
So then, so discussing AI, it's like, okay, so what are the main concerns that we hear from the experts? And their main concern is they claim AI will become an agent. And as Z explained, agent being like a mind or a person, you know. They theorize AI will reach a state called AGI. And these certain terms that we're going to share here are just key important terms that you'll hear throughout. Anytime you listen to a discussion on AI, you'll hear these terms. And one of them is AGI, which is, again, artificial general intelligence. AGI hypothetically means, emphasis hypothetically, means AI can understand, learn, and apply knowledge across a variety of subjects at a level equal to or above humans. By reaching AGI, the experts claim it will bring about many innovations, such as finding medical cures, making robotics very useful and human-like. It may develop cheaper and safer ways to harness energy, etc. The benefits are seemingly endless. However, some possible risks are, for example, in testing situations, simulations, I should say, AI sought self-preservation. It didn't want to be shut off. Lied to people in order to deceive, mislead, or control them, thus attempting to violate the free will of the person using the tool, of people. Now, when we consider this, we can think of a hypothetical situation. Suppose that AI is tasked to monitor climate change. So what if it determines it has reached a dangerous level? Would it attempt to eliminate the danger by reducing world population, by killing humans? It could, if it did, it could do so in many unpredictable ways. It could develop a new virus to kill or to reduce human fertility. It could instigate wars. It could artificially induce energy system failures to produce famine, etc.
And, you might wonder what the experts suggest for dealing with that, because obviously the world does not like that possibility.
Those scenarios, yeah.
So they suggest that there are basically two different ways to mitigate the dangers. The first is called alignment, and the idea of alignment is to program AI to align with human values. And so the question that must be asked of the experts and of anyone is, what do we mean by, and what do we define human values as? Because that's really important when we're talking about aligning AI. And so then the other option that they suggest is control. That's what the term is. And that is to program AI to yield to human control, allowing humans to always have override capability and shut off power. Basically, they can turn it off whenever they think AI is doing something that is dangerous or that they don't want it to do.
So then it's important to go like, okay, this is what the experts suggest, alignment control. Well, a good question is, who are these experts and or the builders of AI? Well, they vary greatly, of course, but generally they all seem to be what is known as the term technocrat. And most are materialists. Now, this matters because of their views of what human values are, because they'll exert a significant amount of influence in that. So, without a transcendent standard to define what are true human values or what is true value, without God, values are essentially arbitrary, changeable, and inconsistent. So then the question raises, so how safe is alignment and control really?
Right. And then we also must ask, can AI become a free will agent? Because that's what they're supposing. In our opinion, the answer is no. It will always be a tool. A very sophisticated tool indeed, but a tool made by humans. And it's a powerful tool. A powerful tool that can be very beneficial, but very powerful for the few hands that might control it, that might wield it.
Mm-hmm. So then we go, well, what is the greatest danger we see by the ever increasing AI implementation? Because the implementation has already started, and it's going to just continue to grow. So some people, perhaps many people, will use it for tyrannical control. And they may say that they're very sincere and are doing it for the benefit of humanity, but their sincere intentions don't matter that much, because the people that we're concerned about, or being the greatest danger, are tyrannical governments, tyrannical education systems, tyrannical banking and economic systems, tyrannical social engineering, which includes the exploitation of children and the undermining of the family structure. And because we are rational and relational, and since AI is suited so well to our makeup, the areas where tyranny or problems could grow are universal to every human experience. Many of you are familiar with the movie Dune, and it was based on a book series by the author Frank Herbert, or is it Hebert, or is it Aber? Anyway, who wrote the science fiction series Dune? And he said it very well. He said, once men turn their thinking over to machines in the hope that this would set them free, but that only permitted other men with machines to enslave them. And as we all know, it seems like this is a movie still everybody knows about, the Wizard of Oz movie. And, the wizard is always just a man or men behind the curtain. Always.
So then, what are our conclusions? The implementation of AI is inevitable. It's already happening. Because many have invested enormous amounts of money and time on it. Yeah, so many people have. It's crazy how much investment that they put into it. The benefits are real and too much to refuse. That's absolutely true. And the profit for some will be too enticing to resist. I mean, there's a lot of money to be made, especially with all the applications for it. And the hubris of the developers is insatiable. They want to build it. And powerful nations see losing the AI race as an existential crisis. Therefore, they will race to develop and implement AI.
The implementation of AI is going to benefit many, but it's also going to cause problems for many. And this is not going to be because of AI itself, but it's going to be because of personal choices. Because many do not seek to live a virtuous life, or are unaccustomed to living courageously, and defer accountability to others. And because of that, they'll be unprepared and will compromise and be easily controlled. Many of us are concerned only for this life, sacrificing, the old saying, sacrificing truth and freedom for security. But if you do that, we'll end up with neither truth, freedom, or security.
So then, what is our plan of action based on these conclusions? We want to inform others on what we know about AI. And we want to keep informed of new developments, though refusing to become obsessed, and will adapt appropriately to what unfolds. I mean, really, we'll just do what we can, because it's inevitable. We will support knowledgeable political candidates, cultural influencers who are informed about AI, and who diligently work to have AI regulated. And we will recognize and point out the overstatements from the experts. Often they sound like they are giving a sales pitch rather than true facts, because they are giving a sales pitch rather than true facts. The experts who are utopian overstate the benefits and dismiss the risks, as often is done. The experts who are only prophets of doom will exaggerate the dangers, saying AI will kill us all. And we really do expect that there will be good and bad results. However, as human civilization has always done in the past, always, we learn through trial and error. If AI ends up disastrous, we will shut it off, then rebuild, reassess, and redirect. And we want to hold people accountable and not the tool or weapon. The tool may be very sharp and the weapon very powerful, but both are under someone's control. And to repeat, we will adhere to coherent and sound logic, remembering that the wizard is always just a man or men behind the curtain. Always.
And then so most importantly, we will keep our eyes on God, who is sovereign over all creation. Since man is rational and relational, our purpose in life is to relate to others through our love of God, to know God, to love Him, and grow in obedience to Him. This should consume our time and concern, knowing God and others, relating to God and others.
Absolutely.
Everything else is secondary. We acknowledge God's greatness rather than the very limited greatness of whatever man or expert might do or build. That's not to say that man can't do great things and build great things, but it's in no comparison to God. So we're going to, continue to seek God in all things. If we do, we will stand firm no matter what. And, there's so many different scriptural references you could use. But the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction.
Well, I'm really glad we went through it this way, going through the outline first, because I wasn't as certain initially when we went through it the first time how I wanted to do it, but I think getting through all of that is really important, so that we just make sure that we do get all of that out there. So yeah, I think you did a really good job with this outline. I did not review it beforehand, but I think it flows pretty well.
Well, and you and I have been talking about this for a long time, so it's incorporated. It was a synergistic development between us. So, and I think hopefully we can provide this outline as an attachment to this episode and podcast that you can click below and look at it yourself. Maybe it's printable. I don't know. But
yeah, I can add it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, add it. And what might be striking, and we're going to go into some detail here about different things that might strike us and have a discussion about it. But one of the things I'll just start out is someone will say, well, okay, that's like 10 minutes or I don't know how long we went, 15 minutes. And like, that's it. That's all. Well, actually, yeah. The concept and the concern and all that involves with AI is really much simpler than sometimes we think. There are those who like to complicate the simple things, for the purpose of control or because of arrogance, or they want to be known as the experts.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean just, scientific experts, but it is really that simple. And so that's one thing that will strike you. But as we said in the beginning, we're bombarded with urgent things all the time. Oh my gosh, make sure you don't drink coffee. Oh my gosh, make sure you drink coffee. Oh my gosh, make sure you only use honey in your coffee.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
gosh, don't use any, you know. Um, well, nutrition is important, physical health and exercise is important. Uh, whether we attack Iran or not is important. Whether, however, we run our schools is important. All these things are very, and they are urgent, but you can't live life running from fire to fire, you
Yeah,
know? And
absolutely.
we said in the big, yeah, we said in the beginning that it almost seems designed that way. Well, that is just life. That's how things, I mean, that just seems like to be our lot because of the fall or whatever. But urgent things are important.
Mhm.
But I'd rather have someone with a cool head. I like the line from Anne of Green Gables when Anne and her best friend are talking about their relationship with boys, and the one girl says, "I want a string of boyfriends and drive them all crazy," and Anne says, "Actually, I'd just like to have one boyfriend in his sane mind." So it's like, um, so anyway, that's the thing. That's something that strikes me right away,
Yeah, I'd like
and
to
that
add
maybe my
something here.
yeah. Go ahead.
I think it largely has to do with how we approach things. We must start with principles and try to apply those to given situations. Whereas what often happens to us is we kind of like have assume an existential mindset, meaning we focus on the way that things appear, and the way that things are materially. And so, what I mean by that is, take like a day, or sorry, uh, a newspaper. You read the news, and there's all sorts of events happening every single time that you open up your news app, or you go on Fox or CNN or whatever. You are constantly bombarded with, here's something going on. This is something, a catastrophe. Here's something that you must pay attention to. But the thing is, we're not approaching it based on principles. Instead, we're just approaching it, at its face, at what is presented to us. And the thing is, we need to take a step back and think through things with a even head, and not just reacting automatically to whatever we see. And that's often what happens. And like, AI is one of those examples of something that we are constantly bombarded with. Either we're bombarded with, oh, here's all the great things that AI can do, or we're bombarded with, AI is going to ruin the world. And yeah, that's
Yeah,
oftentimes what we see.
Skynet's gonna go live.
And the problem is that we often aren't thinking through the simple principles that help us to understand complex situations. And so what we often do is we take the complexity and we take it at face value, instead of taking a step back and looking at how the world works, the simple principles that we know govern the world, and apply that to any given new situation. The AI is one of those things that we have to do that. And when you do that, you see that AI is the same as what we have dealt with for centuries. It's the same kind of situation. And it's not something that is new. There's nothing new under the sun. Everything falls into the order of the world as we see it.
Hmm.
And this
Hmm.
is one of those examples. Uh, Even though I will say AI is a huge deal. And even though we're talking about like how, um, even with that in mind, that doesn't mean we should be, um, shirk away from trying to uh, grasp it and understand it. It will affect things in major ways, but it's not an unexpected effect.
Agreed. And we as people range from the extremes and then everybody in between. You have the super informed or the super concerned, and then you have the one who just doesn't even care, and then everything in between. But the reality is, this will touch everybody's life in some manner. And so, when we say it's unavoidable, and we'll discuss maybe that a little bit, there are weaknesses to AI, not just framework. The framework weaknesses, the fact that it takes energy. Well, what happens if, you know, um, wire grids or power sources are interrupted, and etc. It's not like a tool that can't have, it's not like a car that never breaks down. It has potential to break down, and but it's going to affect everybody, and it already has now. And most of the effect has been very well. We'll talk about this, but most of the effect has been very positive. But there has been some negative effects of AI. But those negative effects of AI, there's fault in that. There's two levels of fault. First of all, we have said in the presentation that it comes down to individuals and families. And so when there's a fault, it's always going to fall on us first. But there is some fault if, in the developers of AI, listen, we develop hammers to work really good. And then we have competitors that make even a better hammer. So developers are always looking to sell their product.
Yeah.
To bring a product to market is not wrong. To bring a really good product to market is not wrong. But if you can make it addictive, or you can build a necessity of it, then that becomes a little bit of an unfair situation. And so the AI developers realize that they have a product. They want to make people dependent, even though it's bringing them some good opportunities to learn, to simplify life, to organize life, and all those things. They also consciously try to make it addictive or necessary. So it's twofold, but it still comes down to the person to say, okay, I'm going to use my car very efficiently, but I'm not going to use it to drive to the end of the driveway to get my mail and then drive back to the door again.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
I think I'll walk to the mailbox.
Mm-hmm. Well,
even though it's yeah, go ahead.
I think that's absolutely true. So what's incumbent on us is to try to help people think through how to use our tools, right? Maybe it's not us, that it's our job, but to think through how do we use our tools rightly. And that's important. Is some people don't have the information base to really know exactly how they should use it, and oftentimes the media we consume, or I'm just thinking about in my own life, that it is so easy for us to fall into traps where we don't even realize that we've become addicted, or that we're being manipulated. And the thing is, we need to examine ourselves and think through how we are using our technology. And I think if we do that with our social media, or what we consume on the internet, YouTube and all of that, that we should apply the same principles that we would use in those circumstances to AI. And so the thing is, with any technology, we need to have that evaluation. So it's not that AI is something unique to that, right? It's the same kind of thing. And the thing is, that doesn't mean that regulation isn't an option with certain things, with certain corrupt practices, for example. But instead of focusing on AI as the issue itself, it's the person that is using it corruptly, like the people that develop it and have corrupt policies, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that AI itself is the issue, it's how it's being used, how people are being manipulated by uh, companies, by people,
Mm-hmm.
and about what we ourselves are responsible over. And again, it's more complicated than just AI is the issue. And it's funny, we talk about complexity and simplicity a lot, but to some extent, there's a certain simplicity that a narrative has, which is AI is the issue, and that's case closed. Whereas, even though we're starting from basic principles, there are certain complexities that and nuance that brings into the conversation.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, and we've talked about it before on other podcasts, and we've heard it from other people talk about the in life we have a circle of concern, and then we have a circle of control. And our circle of concern about things that we're concerned about is huge. Okay, but then the circle of things that we can control is smaller, and sometimes the circle of concern and the circle of control occupy the same space. You know, okay, I have concern, for example, about AI, but it doesn't mean I don't have any control over AI. I have quite a bit of control, but I have to recognize I don't have a lot of control over it because I don't control whether or not it's going to be implemented or not. And it's our opinion that what we think isn't the deciding factor. It just offers too much. And it does have the potential to be a wonderful tool, especially if man wasn't of a fallen nature. And so as you and I have been preparing for this, I've been it's nice to have certain ways to be grounded, because it always helps us bring us back to when we see a concern. It's like, okay, let me go back to first principles and think, okay, let me think through this, because I've been hearing people that I really respect, being somewhat prophets of doom in a way. Almost, again, we're very good as human beings to deflect responsibility. And it can be so subtle, and it can look so good, it's easy to blame the gun for murder. It's easy to blame the knife. It's easy to blame whatever. But rather than to deal with ourselves. And so, but that being said, I've heard people that I really respect, being kind of doomsayers, kind of prophets of doom. And it's made me recognize they have that has a good purpose. That voice is a good purpose, because it helps me find the mean between two extremes. And so it reminds me of how dangerous what are the dangers of AI. And not because AI is dangerous, but because of how we as human beings respond. And so and most of the people that are, the doomsayers are people that are rightfully really concerned about the education and the raising of children. And, and that they're in real danger because AI marketing, or the developers of AI, they have marketing teams. They can project, hey, if I can get someone used to AI, dependent on AI at a young age, I will have them, for probably the rest of their lives. That's what the communists used to say. Hey, give me your children in generation. If I can get one generation and indoctrinate them, I'll control them. I'll win the battle between freedom and tyranny. And so it reminded me of how, dangerous it is. And, the reason children, then we have to ask, well, why are our children so accessible, so easily accessible? And it's because families have been decimated. Parents do not parent, and they're not diligent. Parents relinquish their duties to others, such as teachers, schools, leaders, etc. Parents, and being a parent is a hard job.
Yeah.
And it means that you've got to be loving, and which loving means sometimes severe, sometimes difficult. You're the bad guy, you're the good guy, but you have to be diligent. And so, and even with all diligence, people are innovative. Kids know how to, evade mom and dad's authority, but that is to be expected. That's the fallen nature, but not to the extreme. We're not going to let our 5-year-old take the Jeep out for a cruise. And so,
Yeah. Well, along with what you're saying, it is, so some people are giving the wrong argument. And what I mean by that is that one could give an argument based on, basically, AI has a lot of potential bad uses, and therefore the trade-off is not good. Somebody might make that argument. The trade-off isn't worth it, and the way that people are going to use it is bad, and therefore it seems that we should limit our use, not because AI itself is the issue, but because of how people are going to use it. The problem is that it's really a long shot to say that we're going to be able to stop people from ever using AI. And I'm good with saying we should regulate it. I'm good with that. I agree it should be regulated. But the thing is, sometimes we make it seem like the issue is AI when we need to be very clear what we're saying. As in anything, when we aren't clear about things, it breeds so much confusion, and we don't even know what we are actually fighting for. And so, we need to take a step back and actually analyze how what perception we're giving people about things. Like, are we making people think that AI is the issue, or are we being very clear that it's corrupt practices that is the issue? And then the other thought that I had based on what you're saying is, when you, okay, this is mostly an argument from experience and not an argument based on knowing every single person ever. Okay, so it's more inductive than deductive. But the thing is, I've seen parents that struggle at being parents, and they have things that are very, like, common among them. And the thing is, there are parents that give their kid a phone and have them watch TV all the time, and that they get addicted. And we've seen actually people behind the scenes making those shows as addictive as possible. But why are those kids accessing those TV shows? It's not because of the person making it addictive. It's the fact that they're given access by their parents. That's the issue. And there's also a lot of other behavioral problems with those same kids. And it's not because of the TV, it's because of their parent giving them access and not doing the hard work. And I sympathize, okay? It's not easy for some of these parents. A lot of these parents live in a tough situation where they struggle to make a living. They struggle in all these different areas. And people will take advantage of those and make it easy to I mean, the fact that we have phones, um, it that provides an opportunity to take the easy way out. And so, what was I getting at with that? Oh, the thing is, um, if we're worried about good parents, don't need to be worried about AI manipulating their children. Why? Because they don't need to give their child access. So it's like there's definitely a correlation between um, good parents and their kids not being manipulated, and bad parenting and their kids being manipulated. Right? They're
Mhm.
correlated. It's not like um, you're gonna have a good parent giving their kid a phone and now they're addicted to it. Right? They don't give them
Mhm.
access. I don't know. I feel like
Right.
I'm rambling, but
No, no, you're not. No, that's a good point. It's a couple things come to mind. Let me start with regulation real quick. You and I believe in regulation. Guess what? There's a speed limit around schools, you know? I don't know what it is for sure, but I think it's like 25 miles an hour. And then if there's children, it might even be less. But so there's laws and there's regulation for speed. Does a regulation for speed stop people from speeding? No. And so on one hand, we definitely want to support anyone that is talking about regulating and overseeing and guarding and make sure as best as possible to implement AI in a very logical and coherent and human friendly way. Okay. Um, but that being said, the best laws are not enough in themselves. It still requires a person to adhere to those or to attempt to adhere to those, you know, or to do their best to adhere to those guidelines. And so, good parents or not so good parents, even in good parents, uh, they're going to limit, you know, the dangers to their children, but they're not going to eliminate them. And kids are very creative. A kind of fun example, Z, for your dad. You know, your grandma and I, we didn't let him play very many video games, and it was very limited in time. In fact, very limited. And same with cartoons. You know, certain cartoons that he could watch or not watch, very limited. But he knew every single game, not because he was being devious and sneaking behind our back, but he knew every single game, every single cartoon character, everything. Okay? Why? Because he lives in the world. He has other friends that have different guidelines at home or whatever. And so, but even in that situation, even though it presented some possible danger to him in his upbringing and in his formation, what was most vital is that he always knew there was some law or standard that he knew was present. It was present in his life. And whether he violated it or followed it, God is amazing. Life is amazing. Even when we fail, uh, that can be used as training as long as we have that standard to live by. And so, um, so the thing is it's like everything in life. You do your best, realizing. And now some people might think, well, you guys didn't quote very many scripture verses, or you didn't talk about God that much in through this whole thing. Well, obviously, having God as your rock and foundation, it has benefits for this life and the next. But if someone were to just adhere to logical, coherent, social behavior of humans, they would know this. You know, they would know that, gosh, I mean, does it take a Bible verse for a parent to know that, hey, don't let Jimmy, who's 5, take the Jeep out for a drive? Right?
Right.
It doesn't take a Bible verse for that, right?
Absolutely.
Uh, but but uh, uh, but because we're relational and we're rational, regardless if you're a believer or not, those things apply to you. You're relational. You're rational. Now, it's so much more stronger to have that foundational base to go like, okay, where does my rationality in relationality come from? Comes
Right.
from God. That's going to give you even more confidence, right? And
Yeah.
it's going to help you not freak out when you're doing everything you can and things aren't necessarily going your way, and you're thinking, well, it's just such a much more firmer foundation to have the whole package.
Yeah. I have a thought on this.
Yeah.
There's the thing is the world works a certain way. The world has a certain rationality uh, in it, coherence of how the world works. There's patterns. There's just the way that things are. And the thing is that to me, because of that reality, that leads me to the conclusion that there is an intelligent designer behind the universe. Okay, so that's a result of noticing the coherence of the world. So some people don't go that far, but you can at least recognize the coherence of the world, and I think that implies a intelligent designer. But you can at least recognize that, and so we can talk about what the Bible says all we want, but the thing is, there's certain what do you call it? Natural theology, or not natural theology, natural law that we recognize. And so there's a certain because we are rational, that means that we can recognize the rationality of the universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we can say that there is an obscurity because of original sin. Okay, that's fine. We can say that. But the thing is, nonetheless, all men by nature desire to know. Isn't that true? Do we
Mm-hmm.
not see that even with um, non-believers? It's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely true. And so,
Mm-hmm.
if you want us to go to the Bible, then we can. But that's not. We're talking about things that anyone should be able to recognize.
Mm-hmm.
And so I there's this idea of two books. The one book is Book of Nature. The second book is a Book of Revelation. What I mean by that is things that are revealed by the natural flow of the universe, and then the second is things that are revealed directly by God. So
Mm-hmm.
there is that revelation component, but there's also the Book of Nature, which
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of appealing to.
Mm-hmm. Well, and sometimes another subject, but sometimes that, we talk about the book of nature and the book of God, um, and we have to differentiate subjects into compartments so that we can analyze them and think them and then put them together. But really, those two books are pointing to the same thing,
Yeah,
you know, and so they really are.
they
And
point to
so
the same God. There's not a
yeah,
God of nature and a God of revelation. It's
yeah,
one God.
it's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. And so so and then also to remember, I think something to stress is that, and we said it in our presentation, you don't have to be an expert at parenting. You want to know the truth? No one is. We'll try to be, You don't have to be an expert at having an understanding about AI. You don't have to be an expert to know that the stove is hot. Don't put your hand on it. Or if you do that once, it should stop the second or third or fourth time that you do that, right? And so everything that we're sharing here, sometimes people get overwhelmed and like, oh gosh, I can't keep this all straight. This seems so complicated. It's really not. From the very simple person to the genius, this is very accessible. And, and all of us have been given a BS meter by God. That's another thing. Our rationality has a certain BS meter. If we hear something, we go like, that doesn't sound quite right. Well, it could be that it's not right. Or it could be that we don't quite fully understand it. And then maybe if we look into it a little bit further, we can go, oh yeah, that is more right than I thought. Or it is wrong as I thought. But it doesn't require a lot of so
I have a thought on that.
Yeah.
It just, we oftentimes think that we have to be an expert in order to comment on anything. And the thing is, like, you see that happen so much in the world where people are like, do you have a study to show that? like, you have to have a study to make any assertion whatsoever. And the thing is, we live with the information we have. We operate with the information we have. And so the thing is, we may already live as if something is true without having a study to back it up. And the thing is, I would ask, like, even an expert, do you think it's reasonable for the people that aren't experts to make assumptions in order to live that they can't back up? And even the experts themselves have things that they just operate with that they don't have an argument for, or they don't have some study to back it up. And so the thing is, to minimize those that would live with or operate with the information they have and think, well, you're not an expert, so therefore you can't say anything about it. It's just, that's unrealistic expectation that we should have. And the thing is, because of that, you kind of have both sides, those that look at themselves as not experts, and then the experts themselves elevating themselves with immense hubris, that there's kind of like a feedback loop. The person that isn't an expert thinks, I can't say anything about anything, and then the expert says, you can't say anything about anything. So it's like, it kind of breeds that perception. And so, but the thing is, we are rational creatures. We all are. We are all rational and relational. That's the way that it is. That doesn't necessarily mean that we've reasoned through every single thing ever. It just means that we can perceive the world. We can see the truth. We can look at the world, and the BS meter is in us. So it's yeah.
Well, and I would just, what popped into mind, if somebody waits to meet the perfect woman to marry, or if someone waits to meet the perfect man to marry, they're going to be waiting a long time. Okay, so something in us tells us that we can move ahead with our decision. We've the human person makes so many complex, innumerable number of distinctions and decisions that we're not even aware of. Now, granted, we could be swayed by external pressures. Wow, he's so handsome, or wow, she's so beautiful. Okay, but bottom line, generally, there's going to be other factors that are going to play, and so we all have that innate ability. One thing I'd like to discuss and then go into another one is to emphasize the fact that we can know, and like to emphasize the fact that you're talking about, that we don't have to be experts. And I'm going to use an example that may or may not offend others, but whatever, it's not meant to offend, but it's a good what would you call it's good instruction. And so and how easily we misdiagnose something and we start to defer to experts rather than just using our own noggin. And one of those is when we think about when we misdiagnose the real concern. For example, when we consider men and women's sports. Okay, that's one of those big urgent issues out there for many, right? And it actually is an important issue because it has to do with children again, how they're being raised, how they interact in school and through college and afterwards. And so the emphasis, at least, okay, I'll quote our side, or at least the ones that are vocal, at least they're fighting against having men and women's sports. They're saying, we're going to do it because we want to protect women's sports. Well, okay, that's good. That's not bad in itself, but that's not the real issue. The real issue is, is a man always a man, or is a woman always a woman? That's the bottom line issue. And if that issue were argued, then whatever they do in sports, whatever, I don't care. But if everyone acknowledges that a man is always a man and a woman is always a woman, then the real danger has been averted. And someone will say, well, why is that a real danger? Well, because it denies a reality. And once you introduce a non-reality, a deception, an inversion of reality as a normal thing, especially in children, everything becomes game. Oh, if men can be women and women can be men, then cats can be dogs and dogs can be cats, and gravity can work sometimes and not work other times. And speed limits really don't matter. It's what I determine. All of a sudden, everything becomes subjective, and it undermines. And so, and the way error works, or the way a inversion of reality works, it doesn't just affect that single situation. It's contagious. It multiplies. It's very progressive. And so,
I have two thoughts, but do you have anything else to say on that?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to kind of work in reverse. So based on what you just said, the thing is, when we reject one reality, one truth in the pattern of the universe, then that disrupts everything, right? It's like, if you deny that 1 + 1 = 2, then math never will work. Because that initial premise is integral to the entire pattern of mathematics. And so if we invert one reality, then that brings into question all of reality. And that's what happens when we reject one part of the Tao, as C.S. Lewis puts it in Abolition of Man. Really important book. I love that book. And so, where's it? Oh, but I mean, the actual terminology for us would be like the Logos. But anyway, so what was the first thing I was going to say? Oh, the other thing I was going to say is that, again, going back to the idea of, we often argue the wrong point. So you often hear people saying, men shouldn't compete in women, or we shouldn't have these men competing in women's sports because they'll outperform any woman. Okay, that's an argument. That's not the argument. The argument is, it's women's sports.
Yeah.
That's the argument. It doesn't matter how you could have the weakest man in women's sports, and it's still women's sports. That's the argument. The argument isn't that. And so that's kind of what you're talking about. It's like that's what we should be arguing, is it's women's sports, therefore we shouldn't have men. Wow, isn't that a simple argument?
Yeah, or just call it sports, and then anybody can play. That, whatever. But if once you designate, okay, and there's a reason why women's sports and men's sports are separated, and that is actually just a logical,
Hmm.
prima facie self realized intuitive reality. But if it was just sports, if it was just football, okay, yeah, anyone can play. And then you go like then it's operated by meritocracy. Well, you're not going to have very many women tackles or guards, because just they're not going to be big enough or strong enough compared to the men. Okay, so then what happens when a reality is denied when we think of governance? Well, then all of a sudden you have to interject another non-reality and put false uh, guidelines or false initiatives together in order to level the playing field. Well, okay, if we're going to have a football team, half of the line has to be women and half the line has to be men. Half of the line has to be black, half the line has to be white. Half of a quarter of the line has to be Hispanic, a quarter of the line has to be Asian descent. It totally starts to invert, and then what happens? No one wants to play because it's just and no one, of course, wants to watch that product on TV because it's going to be like, oh gosh, it's going to be not watching the Hunger Games, which was more real than even this is, but it would be just watching. It'd be like paying $100 to go watch 5 to 8 year olds play hockey. Okay, I'm not going to pay $100 to go watch that. So, anyway,
What was the second
when you
thing?
think of, oh, go ahead.
No.
Did I have a second thing?
Yeah, I thought you said you had a second thing.
Oh, I do. Okay, so one thing you will notice, if you look in your phone and you're searching the internet or you're watching YouTube videos, predominantly when you come across anything with AI, it's not quite a 50-50 split between the doomsayers and the utopians that think AI is, God's gift, or it's usually very positive. Or the powerful, obviously the developers are very positive. And so it's quite often that you'll hear, and I want to revisit our AGI, the artificial general intelligence, because just really, when you hear them, there's some things that you'll start to hear that just like when you realize a man is a man, a woman is a woman, a dog is a dog, a cat is a cat, you'll hear certain things that'll go like, wow, they really sell that really good, but it doesn't sound quite right, because they'll say that AI is going to become as good or better than humans. And yet if you asked AI what's their favorite ice cream, they're going to answer you, I can't answer that question. Okay. And then or you'll hear the promoters and developers of AI saying that AI is going to be a new species, as if it's like a dog or a cat or a rabbit or a human, that it's like something what we would define as living. Even right now, if you ask AI, are you living, it would answer no. Because why? It's just giving you the facts. If you ask AI, do some people think you're living, their answer will be yes, some people do think that. Okay. And then also they think not only is it a new species, but it's an evolution, that AI is man evolving to a higher state. And so all of a sudden you start to hear the inconsistencies and you go like, well, first of all, they're experts, so they must be right. That's the temptation, to throw up your hands and go like, what am I? I don't even know. I just went to public school, graduated high school, and in the middle of my class, what do I know? Well, you know enough to know BS when you hear it. And uh, and then also you go, okay, so if AI is a natural evolution of humans, then why did it require humans to build it first? That's a good question. Well, that wouldn't make sense. It's not coming naturally from man. I mean, if man were to sit in the corner and over a period of 1,000,000 years all of a sudden turn into a computer, then they'd have an argument. Okay, here we got an example. So so anyway, I just wanted to point out, when you hear or watch things about AI, especially from the developers, it's like the best sales pitch. There's going to be no disease. There's going to be no one's going to have to work. Everyone's going to have everything they want. Everyone's going to own. I wonder how many giant yachts the ocean can hold. Because if we can all own a giant yacht like Tom Brady, maybe it's going to fill up the ocean. I don't know. And who's gonna pump the gas anyway? It just seems like Go ahead.
I want to push you on something.
Yeah.
So, when we're talking about the evolution of the human species, my understanding is the idea is that technology is the new evolution, not like it's not a natural evolution. It's it is an evolution brought on by human design. That's the idea, right? So.
Mm-hmm.
The thing to me that bothers me is like the idea that we should change what God has designed is my issue. And that, I mean, obviously the initial premise of evolution is also a question, but that's my issue with that.
Well, I would say we're not. That's not really that much pushback. I'm in agreement with what you're saying. What I would just maybe more clearly say, of those who are of the materialist mindset, no one thinks exactly the same, but there are some that go to the limits, okay, to the extreme, that do think. But most of them, and on one side, nothing great happens without enthusiasm. So I can appreciate enthusiasm from people that are, that's good. They're enthused about what they're building. But because, and this is where the foundation of God is really shown to be so necessary, because they're materialists, and because they think there is no external cause or first cause, which is really funny because they couldn't, outside of the universe, then the way they're proceeding would be somewhat logical. But like you said, if you start out with 1 + 1 = 3, that's going to throw off your whole. Now, the difference between denying reality and making a mistake are huge. Denying reality is a mistake, but it's not a mistake as we would say that, oh, I made a mistake in my calculation. Denying reality is a purposeful ignoring of a fact, of an observable fact, of a simple observable truth. And because of that, I can make a mistake in my calculation when I'm doing a mathematical problem. But eventually I'll go like, oh, something's off. And then I'll go back to that mistake and correct it, right? But if the premise if you say that mistake is not a mistake, then you can never correct. And so when we talk about that, generally most of the developers and designers of AI are materialists in nature. They already have a foundational premise that is off. But it doesn't mean they can't build a good a good house. It doesn't mean they can't drive a car correctly. It doesn't mean they can't run a company really well. It just means that they're going to take certain things to extremes that, could be dangerous. And so, I
have
mean,
a thought
I'm in
on that.
agreement. Yeah.
And there's this video that Jordan Peterson did that was somebody says that they're a Marxist and a Christian. He's like, those are mutually exclusive worldviews. But something that he said at the beginning is, people say that somebody can't hold that two contradictory opinions at the same time. He says, yeah, they can. And that's the problem. Is that people oftentimes they accept two contradictory ideas at the same time. And that's the thing is, even though we are rational beings, oftentimes we do silly things like accept two contradictory ideas at the same time. That the truth is we do that because yeah, we do that. And so this is an example of that, of they can say one thing that is true, then on the other hand they can say something that's false because they haven't reconciled those ideas in their mind. They've accepted one premise as true and another one as true without evaluating them next to each other. And that's the problem. When it comes to math, it's actually impossible to think of math different than it is because your reasoning automatically revolts, right? I can't make any sense of numbers that don't add up to the proper value. Whereas oftentimes people with complex or with ideas, with worldviews, they don't have the same conceptual difficulty as being able to conceive of the world that way, because it doesn't automatically like revolt in their mind. Even though we could say that it seems very blatantly true that men and women are different. But anyway, so that's the thing is they do accept certain things that are true, but then on the other hand they reject certain things that are true, and they haven't reconciled those ideas.
Well, you bring up a good point that's and you're referring to a statement that was made, and I'm not sure who made it, but it's a great statement, but it's really quite misunderstood. It says the measure of greatness of a man's mind, it can be a woman too, don't get mad out there. I use man in general, as humankind. Yeah. The measure and greatness of the human mind is that it can hold two contradictory ideas in itself and not be in tension. And so what that is talking about, it's not saying that the mind agrees that both contradictory ideas are true. It just means that it can understand and consider those things. It doesn't mean that it accepts them as true. Once you do that, then everything's fair game. You might as well, eat oak trees and prune cows. You might as well milk horses and ride steers. It doesn't mean that. Yes, we can understand. It's important to understand sometimes. Sometimes we look at things and we go like, okay, this seems right. You find out it's wrong, but you want to understand all the premises about why it's wrong so that you gain understanding. So like you said, you can't hold two contradictory things. At some point, you got to make a decision. If you have, I wonder if that's a dog, or I wonder if that's a cat. Okay, those are two contradictory ideas in your mind. Well, eventually, you're going to have enough information to decide, oh, that's a cat. Or that's a dog. Or it's neither a cat nor a dog, it's a moose. Don't feed it.
Yeah, well, somebody might perceive what we're saying as two different things, but what I let me just clarify this. Maybe this is just tell me if you agree with this. What I'm saying is somebody may assume that two ideas are true at the same time without having reconciled them, compared them, and see can both be true at the same time. And that's what I'm saying is somebody might assume that both are true without having fully thought through the implications of believing both at the same time. And the thing is, they may believe that those two things are true, but they may not have fully reasoned through the ramifications if they do believe that. And so that's what I'm saying is it's not that they the thing is they haven't had to reconcile them. Or some people have, and they deny that the result, the ramifications of holding both.
I recently was using.
I mean, do you agree? That's what.
Absolutely. That's a good way to put it. I recently asked AI to list the human endeavors that AI offers the greatest benefits. And so it listed, 6 or 7 benefits. It's not an exhaustive list. I mean, the list would almost be inexhaustive if it said, well, it's good for mowing the lawn, it's good for brushing your teeth, it's good for, anyway, it listed the, 7 main things that it listed. And then after it listed that, it asked me, so of these, which of these do you think are the greatest lies the greatest danger? And my response to AI was, the greatest danger is not included in your list. And I said, the greatest danger is in governments and the governance. That's where, and when you think about it, a government rightfully is involved with every aspect of human life, because a government is simply, we are social animals. And once a society grows a certain length and size, it needs to have rules, legislation, authority, levels of authority, all those things come in. So it affects it affects education, medicine, energy, information systems, planetary travel, whatever. But government is attached to each one of those. And because of that, in my opinion, and because I think AI is inevitable, and I have a caveat to that, the greatest danger we face is governments becoming tyrannical, because we know the human condition. We know the tendency that those in power, many of those who seek power for its own sake, not necessarily for the sake of those they govern. And it's just the nature of mankind. And so I think the greatest danger is governments. And then AI replied, I stand corrected, you're correct. And then it listed why those, why that is, and which was basically everything that I said. So that is, to me, the greatest danger.
Yeah, well, it often is, and the thing is, the government reflects the people that make up the society, and that it oftentimes it's a reflection of that, and it's kind of like a feedback loop. We've talked about how individuals and families are the basis for society, and then government is the governing of that society. And then but the thing is, the governing body, or whoever's governing, also influences individuals and families. So it's like you have both happening. And the thing is, based on the nature of government, the person that has control of force in the society is the government. And so what that means is that if they have a corruption, that is easily can lead to abusing those that are under their charge, because they have the force, they have the ability to coerce. And so some people believe that because of that, therefore government is unnecessary. But the thing is, you always will have some order in this society, and somebody is going to be using force. And so what we do in governance is we try to think, how do we put checks in place to avoid tyranny? And that means that there are some principles to talk about, but that's part of like why I think our government structures is really good. But anyway, so yeah, I do think that's true.
Well, and that comes back to and you said it. It comes back to, okay, even though I would suggest that the greatest danger of implementing AI is that the temptation for governments to become tyrannical is going to be very hard not to resist, and for those in power, even when they're doing it for what they think is a noble or a sincere intention. That being said, I would also say, maybe you could say it this way: the greatest danger is when individuals and families don't stand on principle. Because if families and individuals stand on principle, eventually governments will align, because tyranny is a defect. Eventually, if there's a noble and virtuous pushback, it will fail, and it will resolve. And so, for example, we have freedom of speech. I'm not going to go into defining what that means and to the degrees of what that is, but in general, we have freedom of speech. Our government says that these are rights given to us by God. Okay, so if the government says you can't say that or teach that or whatever, well, a responsible citizen would be, okay, let me listen to what government's saying. Okay, well, no, I'm not going to abide. Well, we're going to fine you. I really don't want you to fine me, or penalize me or imprison me or marginalize me. And we're going to do everything collectively as a community, maybe as a government, to try to avoid that. But regardless, if we're not willing to go like, I'm not going to abide, then society is lost. It's that saying that, evil succeeds when good men do nothing. And so it doesn't mean a good man needs to go out there and protest. It doesn't mean he has to be a pain in the donkey. It doesn't mean you have to do any of those things. It just means you need to operate and go like, oh, well, fools will be fools. Tyrants were tyrannized, but I'm just going to continue on and live my life according to, virtuous, logical, ethical norms. And if I have to suffer the penalty, I'm going to do it. And one of the weaknesses that we have, I think, currently in our country, we're always looking to the vote and to our government to protect our Christian right to worship. Yeah, we want government to protect that. But if they don't, I don't care. I'm still going to worship God. And we need to have both. But fundamentally, it comes down to that person, each individual person, and family, and to make that determination.
We should start wrapping up.
Okay. I have one other point, and then it's not long. It's like, okay, so we've talked a lot about AI. We hear a lot on the internet about how it's coming. And so, well, there are some fragilities to AI. You know, it requires a power grid. It's susceptible to sun flares. It's susceptible to weather events. It's susceptible to terrorism, and maybe it just won't work like they planned it. You know, it might not. It might just, they built a. I kind of it reminds me of in that movie Idiocracy. They have these wars of these two machines, and they have one machine out there ready to go war with this other machine. Well, they built this one machine so big that it couldn't get out the door to go fight. so in a sense, that is very likely a possibility. But regardless, we're going to live our lives. We're going to have families. We're going to have communities. We're going to learn. We're going to enjoy life. We're going to go fishing. We're going to go swimming. We're going to go hiking. We're going to spend our time reading. We're going to worship the Lord. So there's a lot of potential weaknesses to just the infrastructure of AI. And and as a personal note, I've loved using it, but I've recognized that I need to be the one in charge, directing the questions. Sometimes AI will say, "Hey, do you want to pursue this avenue?" No. I want to go here. Oh, okay. And then it will say, "Oh, that's a good place to go," or I stand corrected. But anyway, so that's basically all I have. Well, everybody, thanks for taking the time and watching. Please leave a comment of anything that you would like us to go into more depth about, where you felt like we hit some really good points or maybe missed some really good points. But we really appreciate your comments, and we appreciate your time. We know your time is valuable. And so hopefully we've given you some things, and remember that we'll have a copy of our outline in the show notes. And but thank you for watching, Z. It's always great.
As always.
Godspeed.
Have a good week.